The dense alien forest was quiet, too quiet for Sergeant Cole West's liking. His boots crunched softly against the damp ground, the only sound breaking the unnatural stillness. He adjusted his rifle, his eyes scanning the trees. Sunlight barely filtered through the thick green canopy, creating shifting shadows that danced like ghosts. Cole's mission had been simple: scout the area and confirm enemy movements. But after a brutal battle the day before, everything had changed. His squad was gone, and he was alone behind enemy lines. "Just keep moving," he muttered under his breath. The silence made him uneasy. It felt like something, or someone, was watching him. Suddenly, he saw it, smoke rising above the treetops, faint but unmistakable. Cole narrowed his eyes. "That's not good," he muttered, changing direction. He moved carefully, stepping over twisted roots and pushing through ferns until he reached a clearing. His breath caught at the sight before him. A small alien escape pod lay half buried in the ground. Its hull scorched and cracked from the crash. Smoke hissed from vents, and sparks danced across the broken metal. Something had gone horribly wrong. Cole raised his rifle and approached cautiously, his finger hovering over the trigger. He knew what this meant. Enemy forces used pods like this. If survivors were here, they wouldn't be friendly. But as he reached the side of the pod, he froze. A figure was slumped against the broken hull. A woman. Cole blinked in surprise. She wasn't human. Her skin was emerald green, faintly glowing in the dappled sunlight. Her long copper-colored hair spilled across her shoulders like liquid fire, tangled and dusty. She wore armor, ornate and silver, now cracked and covered in scorch marks. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing amber like twin suns, and when she saw him, her face twisted in terror. "No," she gasped, her voice hoarse but clear. She scrambled back weakly, pressing herself against the pod as if trying to melt into it. Her hand moved to her waist, fumbling for a blade. "Whoa, hey, easy," Cole said quickly, lowering his rifle to show he wasn't a threat. "I'm not here to hurt you." The alien woman glared at him, her chest rising and falling with effort. You are human," she hissed, her voice trembling with both fear and hatred. "Are you here to kill me?" Cole shook his head firmly. "No, I'm not like that. You're hurt." Her hand trembled as she gripped the hilt of a small knife, but she was too weak to lift it. Her breathing was shallow, her glowing eyes dimming. "Look, I don't know what happened here," Cole continued, his voice steady but calm. "But if I leave you like this, you're not gonna make it." She stared at him, her expression torn between fear and confusion. For her, humans were the enemy, ruthless, merciless. Yet here he was, kneeling before her, offering help. Cole slowly pulled his medkit from his pack and set it on the ground between them. "See, I'm here to help. That's all." The alien woman's eyes flickered toward the medkit, doubt and exhaustion warring in her mind. Finally, her shoulders slumped, and the knife fell from her grip. Cole moved closer, his voice soft. "You'll be okay. I promise." As the forest remained silent, Cole got to work, unaware of the bond that had just begun between them. The alien woman's breathing was shallow, her face pale beneath her emerald skin. Cole knelt beside her, carefully opening his medkit. He could see the deep gash on her side where her armor had cracked, glowing faintly like embers. She flinched as he moved closer, her amber eyes watching him warily. "Relax," Cole said in a calm voice, pulling out antiseptic and bandages. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't be wasting good supplies on you, would I?" She didn't reply but didn't resist either. Her eyes darted from his hands to his face, as though trying to read his intentions. Cole worked quickly, cutting away a torn piece of her armor to expose the wound. He winced at the sight. It was worse than he thought. "This is gonna sting," he warned, holding up the antiseptic. The woman tensed, her jaw clenching. When the liquid touched her skin, she hissed in pain, her hands curling into fists. Cole worked carefully, his movements gentle but efficient. "You're lucky I found you," he said, breaking the silence as he wrapped the bandage tightly around her side. "A few more hours out here, and you'd have been toast." The alien woman narrowed her glowing eyes. "Why are you helping me?" Her voice was soft, but edged with suspicion. Cole shrugged, tying off the bandage. "Because you needed help." She stared at him, as if his answer made no sense. "Your kind does not help mine. You are soldiers, killers." Cole sat back on his heels, wiping sweat from his brow. "Not all of us are like that. And from the looks of it, you've had a rough time already. I'm not about to make it worse." The woman's gaze softened slightly, though doubt still lingered in her eyes. "What is your name, human?" "Sergeant Cole West," he said simply, offering a faint smile. "And you?" She hesitated before answering. "Renari, of the Arcari." "Renari," Cole repeated, testing the name on his tongue. "Well, Renari, you're lucky to be alive. Now that you're patched up, we've got to get you somewhere safer than this." Renari frowned, shifting slightly. "Why would you take me anywhere? My people are your enemy." Cole sighed, standing up and slinging his rifle across his back. "Doesn't matter to me. Enemy, friend, you're a person, and people shouldn't die alone in a place like this." Renari stared at him, her golden eyes wide with disbelief. She had been taught all her life that humans were ruthless, heartless invaders. And yet this man, this soldier, had saved her when he could have walked away. Cole extended his hand to her. "Come on, can you walk?" Renari hesitated, staring at his hand as if it were a strange object. Finally, she reached out and took it, her grip weak but determined. Cole pulled her to her feet, steadying her when she stumbled. "There we go. One step at a time." Renari looked up at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of deceit. She found none. "You are strange, human," she murmured. Cole grinned faintly. "I'll take that as a compliment. Let's move." Together, they began walking through the quiet forest, two enemies bound by fate, unaware that this was only the beginning of their story. The forest felt alive around them. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, leaves rustled above, and faint beams of sunlight pierced through the thick canopy. Cole moved steadily ahead, his eyes darting from shadow to shadow. Behind him, Renari walked carefully, using his arm for balance when needed. "You're doing good," Cole said, glancing back at her. Renari narrowed her golden eyes at him, clearly annoyed by his words. "I do not need your praise, human." Cole smirked. "Oh, excuse me. I'll save the pep talk for later." Her pride was still strong, but her body betrayed her. Every step seemed to sap more of her strength. She stumbled slightly, and Cole quickly caught her arm to steady her. "Careful," he said, his tone soft but firm. Renari pulled away, frustration flickering across her face. "I told you, I am fine." "Sure," Cole replied, his voice calm. "But if you keep acting tough and fall flat on your face, I'm not carrying you." Renari stared at him, clearly unused to someone speaking to her so casually. For a moment, she opened her mouth to argue but stopped, too tired to fight. "You are insufferable." Cole chuckled lightly. "I've been told worse." They continued walking, the forest growing darker as the trees thickened. The silence between them stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Renari watched Cole carefully as they moved. His focus, his calm confidence, it confused her. "You are strange, human," she said suddenly, her voice quiet. Cole looked back at her. "How so?" "You risk yourself to save me," Renari said. "My people are at war with yours. You should have killed me." Cole sighed, shaking his head. "I told you, I don't leave people to die. Doesn't matter whose side you're on." Renari frowned, her golden eyes searching his face. "That is not what I was taught." "Well, maybe it's time to learn something new," Cole replied with a faint smile. They reached a small clearing where the ground was dry and flat. Cole stopped, setting down his rifle. We'll rest here for a bit. You need it. Ranieri looked ready to argue, but her body betrayed her once again. Reluctantly, she lowered herself to the ground, leaning against a thick tree trunk. Cole sat a few feet away, rummaging through his pack. He tossed a small wrapped bar toward her. Here. Food. Ranieri caught it, turning it over in her hands. What is this? Protein bar, Cole explained. Tastes like cardboard, but it'll keep you going. She studied him suspiciously. And what if it is poison? Cole rolled his eyes. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't be sitting there eating snacks. Ranieri hesitated, then carefully unwrapped the bar and took a bite. Her expression soured instantly. It does taste like cardboard. Cole laughed, leaning back against his pack. Told you. Ranieri glanced at him again, something softer in her gaze this time. You are different, Cole West. Cole smiled faintly, staring at the canopy above. Yeah, I get that a lot. As the two sat in the quiet clearing, Ranieri felt something she hadn't expected. Trust. The forest grew darker as the sun sank lower on the horizon. Cole sat cross-legged near the edge of the clearing, his rifle resting on his knees as he kept watch. Ranieri leaned against the tree trunk, her eyes half closed as she recovered. The faint glow of her golden eyes still flickered now and then, but her energy was slowly returning. How far is this place you speak of? Ranieri asked suddenly, her voice breaking the quiet. Cole turned his head to look at her. The old outpost. Half a day's walk. Maybe less if we keep a good pace. Ranieri frowned faintly. And what will you do when we arrive? Cole paused, considering her question. Find some supplies, water, maybe send a signal to my people. Then, I'll figure out how to get you back to yours. Ranieri's glowing eyes narrowed. You wish to return me to my people? Yeah, Cole said simply. You're not safe out here, and you sure as hell can't heal up properly in a war zone. She tilted her head slightly, clearly puzzled. You act as though I am important to you. I am your enemy, am I not? Cole sighed, running a hand through his hair. You keep bringing that up. Look, I don't care about this war. I'm just a guy trying to help someone who needs it. I don't pick sides when it comes to saving lives. Ranieri stared at him for a long moment, her gaze unreadable. Humans are strange creatures, she murmured. Cole grinned faintly. Yeah, I get that a lot. A sudden noise cut through the calm. A low guttural growl. Cole froze, his body tense. You hear that? Ranieri's sharp senses flared to life. Her eyes snapped open fully, glowing brighter. Something hunts us. Cole jumped to his feet, rifle raised. The sound grew louder, accompanied by the rustling of leaves and snapping branches. Whatever it was big. Stay close, Cole muttered, stepping in front of Ranieri. From the underbrush, a massive creature emerged, a beast with scales like black stone, claws as long as knives, and glowing red eyes that locked onto its prey. Ranieri's breath caught. A Vorak, she whispered. A predator. The Vorak let out a deafening roar, its muscular body coiling to pounce. Cole didn't hesitate. Move, he shouted, firing off 3 rounds. The bullets hit their mark, but the creature barely flinched, its armored hide deflecting the shots. Ranieri struggled to rise, but Cole stood firm. I'll distract it. Get out of here. I will not leave you. Ranieri snapped, her voice filled with defiance. The Vorak charged, its claws tearing through the ground. Cole dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the beast's attack. He scrambled back to his feet, reloading his rifle. Come on, you ugly brute. Ranieri's eyes glowed fiercely as she summoned her strength. Pushing past her pain, she grabbed a sharp shard of her broken armor and hurled it with deadly precision. The shard struck the Vorak's eye, and the beast howled in agony. Cole seized the moment, taking aim. Lights out. The shot rang out, hitting the Vorak's exposed weak spot. The beast stumbled, let out one final growl, then collapsed into the dirt. Cole exhaled, lowering his rifle. Well, that was close. Rhaenyra stood shakily, her face pale but determined. She looked at Cole, admiration flickering in her golden eyes. "You fought for me." Again. Cole smiled, breathing hard. "Yeah, well, I'm stubborn like that." For the first time, Rhaenyra didn't argue. "You are not like the others, human." Cole grinned, offering his hand. "Come on, let's get moving before anything else shows up." Rhaenyra took his hand without hesitation, and together they left the clearing, the bond between them growing stronger with each step. The air felt heavier after the encounter with the Vorak. The forest had fallen eerily silent, as if even nature held its breath. Cole moved carefully, his rifle still in hand, glancing over his shoulder every now and then. Rhaenyra walked beside him, her steps more steady now, though her face showed exhaustion. "You okay back there?" Cole asked, breaking the quiet. "I am fine," Rhaenyra replied stubbornly, though her voice lacked its usual sharpness. Cole smirked faintly. "You sure? Because I'm not carrying you again if you fall." Rhaenyra shot him a glare, though there was no real anger behind it. "You talk too much, human." "Yeah, I get that a lot," Cole said, a teasing grin on his face. Despite herself, Rhaenyra's lips twitched, the faintest hint of a smile. She wasn't sure why, but Cole's strange humor made the weight of their situation feel lighter. It was unfamiliar, comforting, even. They walked in silence for a while, the dense trees giving way to patches of sunlight. Eventually, Cole stopped and knelt down, inspecting something on the ground. "What is it?" Rhaenyra asked, stepping closer. "Tracks," Cole said, running his fingers over the dirt. "And not good ones." Rhaenyra's golden eyes narrowed as she studied the marks. "Soldiers." "Yeah," Cole muttered, rising to his feet. "They're close." Rhaenyra tensed, her instincts kicking in. "They are searching for me. And if they find us, it's game over," Cole replied, scanning the trees. He turned to her, his expression serious. "We need to keep moving, fast. Can you handle it?" Rhaenyra lifted her chin, her pride refusing to let her show weakness. "I can." Cole gave her a small nod, impressed by her resolve. "Good. Let's go." They moved quickly, weaving through the forest, the tension between them growing with every step. Cole led the way, his sharp eyes scanning for movement. Rhaenyra stayed close behind, her body still recovering, but her spirit unbroken. Suddenly, Cole froze, holding up a hand. Rhaenyra stopped, her senses alert. "What is it?" she whispered. Cole's jaw tightened as he pointed to a clearing ahead. Through the trees, they could see a squad of enemy soldiers, their dark armor glinting under the sunlight. They moved in formation, scanning the area with weapons drawn. Rhaenyra's breath caught. "They are hunting us." "Yeah, no kidding," Cole whispered back, his voice calm but firm. "We'll have to go around. Stay low, stay quiet." Rhaenyra frowned. "You could leave me. You would move faster alone." Cole turned to her sharply. "Not happening. I'm not leaving you behind." She blinked, surprised by the strength in his words. "Why?" "Because I don't abandon people," Cole replied simply. "Now, come on." They crouched low, slipping silently through the underbrush. Every sound felt magnified. The crunch of a leaf, the rustle of a branch. Rhaenyra followed Cole's lead, her heart pounding. For the first time, she realized she trusted him completely. As they moved further from the soldiers, Cole glanced back, offering her a small, confident smile. "Told you, we'll get through this." Rhaenyra couldn't explain it, but for the first time in a long while, she believed him. Cole moved swiftly through the forest, his steps quiet as a shadow. Rhaenyra followed close behind, mirroring his movements. Her breathing was steady, but the faint glow of her golden eyes betrayed her exhaustion. The tension in the air was heavy. Every step felt like it might give them away. Keep low, Cole whispered, glancing back. We don't want them spotting us. Ranieri nodded wordlessly, her sharp senses listening for any sound of pursuit. From somewhere behind, faint voices and the distant clatter of boots told them the soldiers were still searching. They are persistent, she murmured. Cole grunted softly. Yeah, well, they're not gonna stop until they find us. That's why we've got to be smarter. They continued forward, weaving through thick bushes and ducking under fallen trees. Finally, they reached a steep slope that dropped into a narrow ravine. Cole knelt, scanning the area. This'll work, he said. If we get down there, we can follow the ravine west. It'll cover our tracks. Ranieri looked at the slope, her expression doubtful. You expect me to climb down there? Cole smirked, his eyes twinkling with humor. You fought off a Vorak and walked half dead through the forest. A little climbing won't kill you. Ranieri shot him an annoyed glare but couldn't hide the faint flicker of amusement. Humans and their humor, she muttered. Cole chuckled, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. It's what keeps us alive. Without waiting, he began climbing down the slope, using tree roots and rocks for balance. Ranieri hesitated for only a moment before following. Her movements were slow but careful. Cole kept glancing up to check on her. You're doing good, he called softly. I do not need your praise, human, Ranieri replied, though there was no anger in her voice this time. By the time they reached the bottom, both were breathing hard. Cole wiped the sweat from his brow, taking a quick look around. The ravine was shaded and cool, with a small stream trickling through the rocks. We'll rest here for a moment, Cole said, dropping his pack. Ranieri sat on a nearby rock, stretching her aching limbs. She watched Cole as he refilled his canteen from the stream, his movements precise and calm. It struck her how different he was from what she had been taught. You risk much for me, she said suddenly. Cole looked up, surprised. What do you mean? You fight for me. You carry me. You protect me. Yet I am your enemy. Cole sighed, walking back toward her. I don't see an enemy. I see someone who needed help. That's all. Ranieri stared at him, her glowing eyes softening. You are unlike any human I have known. Cole smiled faintly, sitting beside her. Good. I hate to be predictable. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the sound of the stream filling the air. Finally, Ranieri spoke again, her voice quieter. Perhaps. Not all humans are as I believed. Cole glanced at her, a gentle smile on his face. Stick with me, Ranieri. I'll prove it. And for the first time, she believed that maybe, just maybe, the war hadn't destroyed all kindness in the universe. The ravine stretched ahead, and the world around them felt even quieter than before. The sounds of enemy soldiers had faded, but the air was thick with tension. Cole kept moving, his eyes scanning the terrain. They had to keep pushing forward if they wanted to escape. We're getting close, Cole muttered, glancing back at Ranieri. She was following a few paces behind, still looking worn but determined. I can hear it, Ranieri replied, her eyes narrowing as she listened to the faint sounds of machinery in the distance. The outpost. Yeah, Cole said, his voice calm but urgent. But it's not going to be easy. We have to get in and out without being spotted. Ranieri nodded, her expression unreadable, but her golden eyes flashed with something like resolve. I am ready. Good, Cole said with a small smile. Stick close. I'll take the lead. They continued moving, the forest giving way to more open ground as they neared the human outpost. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the landscape. Cole's mind raced with possibilities. The outpost was their best chance, but it was also crawling with enemy patrols. As they neared the edge of the trees, Cole signaled for them to stop. They crouched down behind a small hill, watching the outpost in the distance. It was a makeshift structure, cobbled together from debris, but it looked functional. A few soldiers patrolled the perimeter, and several large vehicles were parked near the entrance. We'll need to take out the guards, Cole said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "We can't just walk in. I'll draw their attention, and you take them out from behind." Ranieri's eyes flickered with something dangerous. "I can do that." Cole turned to look at her. "Be careful. I'll cover you." Ranieri nodded, her expression hardening. "I have faced worse." Cole wasn't sure if she was trying to convince him or herself, but either way, he trusted her. They both knew the stakes. They couldn't afford any mistakes. "Ready?" Cole asked. Ranieri gave him a sharp nod. "Always." They moved into position, using the shadows to stay hidden. Cole crept toward the first guard, his movements slow and deliberate. The guard was distracted, checking a comm device in his hand. Cole pulled out a small grenade from his belt and, with a deep breath, threw it just past the soldier. The explosion was small but loud enough to distract the guards. "That's our cue," Cole whispered to Ranieri. She wasted no time. Moving swiftly, Ranieri closed the distance between her and the distracted guards. With precise movements, she silently incapacitated the first soldier. Cole was right behind her, taking down the second guard in a blur of action. Together, they cleared the perimeter without a single shot being fired. "Not bad for a human and an alien," Cole said, breathing heavily as he checked the guards for weapons. Ranieri smirked, the first genuine expression of amusement since they met. Not bad for a human soldier either. They shared a look, a bond formed in battle. They had come a long way since that first encounter in the desert, and neither of them knew what awaited them inside the outpost. But they were ready. "We keep moving," Cole said, his voice steady. "We're not out of the woods yet." Ranieri nodded, her eyes glowing with determination. "Lead the way." Together, they moved into the heart of the outpost, their mission still far from complete.